A complete failure of presidential leadership. That's what Republican Senator Lamar Alexander is calling the sequestration cuts. Senator Alexander joins us now live. And Senator, I want to start by asking you, Gene Sperling said in that interview that the president is still reaching out to Democrats and Republicans. What's your sense of what's going on?
Well, he hasn't reached out to me. My sense is, and I really believe this, and Mitt Romney suggested it, this is a colossal failure of presidential leadership. I mean, this is the president's sequester. In the middle of 2011, he made a deal. He wanted so badly to get through the election without a debt ceiling issue. He didn't want to touch the real problem, which is mandatory spending increases. So he made a deal to reduce spending by $2.2 trillion. And then he spent the last year doing nothing about it, and the last month going around the country campaigning against his own sequester. That's not the way a president of the United States is supposed to perform.
All right, my understanding is that you voted for the Budget Control Act, which had this sequester framework built into it. Now it's come to fruition, even though many people didn't think it would ever come to this. Do you regret voting for it?
No, I don't regret voting for it because it gave us $2.2 trillion of spending reductions. The only thing I regret is that we're not able to focus on the real problem. The sequester is focused, and these reductions are focused on the part of the budget that's pretty much under control. National parks, national defense, national laboratories. The part that's not under control, and it's growing at the rate of 2 or 3%, or 2 or 3 times inflation, is the mandatory spending increases. So that's the only regret I have, that between the president and Congress, he won't focus on that, and we can't get that done.
The president said this week that, quote, none of this is necessary, referring to these cuts that we're discussing now. He says it's happening because of a choice by congressional Republicans. What weight do you bear? Any blame that the GOP bears in where we've gotten to today?
I just can't understand this style of presidential leadership. I mean, the president takes no responsibility for his own sequester. He's had a year to fix it. He could still fix it today. He could send us a plan tomorrow, and we could have back to him a result within a couple of weeks. He could suggest that we spread it out over just the discretionary part of the budget. That'd be a 2% cut. He could suggest that we spread it out over the whole budget. That would be a 7% cut. We could spread it out over the whole budget. That'd be a 2% cut. He could do what Senator Corker and I have done, which is suggest a $1 trillion reduction in spending increases on mandatory spending, which would be a favor to seniors and a favor to young people, because it would make the program solvent and lower the possibility of a debt that we can't pay. But he's doing none of that. He's accepting no responsibility. He's not acting like a president of the United States is supposed to act.
On your side of the Hill in the Senate, there's been no budget passed for years now. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has not moved one. The rare vote that has happened on the Hill with respect to, I think, about the president's budget, in which he got 0 votes from Republicans or Democrats for that particular piece of legislation. Why do you think, with all of those factors in play, it seems that Republicans are taking so much of the heat publicly for where we are right now fiscally?
Well, I'm not sure, but I wish I could give you the answer to that. The problem is the president has profited politically so far from blaming other people for problems he has caused by not producing a budget, by ignoring the real problem, which is mandatory spending increases. But I predict that won't last forever. Colossal failures of presidential leadership will be a blot on his legacy, and every great crisis in our history has been solved by presidential leadership or not at all. I think he's going to regret deeply missing this opportunity to lead right after he was elected by a good margin, and putting this problem behind us, the problem of mandatory spending increases. That's the problem. And then he could get on to his agenda, and we could argue about that.
All right, speaking of spending, you know that there are more budget battles looming. The next one that comes due is the continuing resolution, which essentially keeps the government funded and running at the end of the month. That will expire absent some type of renewal. The president has suggested he will allow Congress to handle that separately from the sequester issue. There are conservatives on the House side who have written to House Speaker John Boehner saying they want something in return for that continuing resolution. They don't want to simply put together a funding measure, as it seems, to suggest that he is going to go down that path. They want something in return. They want the CR to be used for leverage, for negotiation. Where do you stand on that?
Well, here's what I think we should do with the continuing resolution, which is a spending plan for the next 6 months. The president this week should send us a plan to replace the sequester with an equal amount of spending reduction that's spread across the whole budget. That would be about a 2 or 3% cut, and it would avoid most of the pain that he keeps talking about. We could put that on the Senate floor within a week. We could enact it and get it to him within 2 weeks, and we could fund the government for the rest of the year with that plan and avoid the sequester and still do a reasonable job of reducing spending, same amount. Except the problem is, what he really should do, he should send us a plan to reduce the growth of entitlement spending, because it's the mandatory spending increases that are causing all this problem with the mandatory spending reductions.
All right, Senator Lamar Alexander, Republican of Tennessee. Sir, thank you for your time. We'll see you soon back here in Washington.
Thank you, Shannon.